Hey there, we are finishing up today our Ancient Globalization unit with a topic talk on empires and dynasties in Asia, and we want to continue to see how interconnecting societies in the world is seen through trade, sometimes religion, definitely some exchange of ideas. So to do that, let's begin looking at the Tang Dynasty of China. It's Tong there, spelled Tang, but I'm pretty sure that's the breakfast drink that astronauts use. Anyway, so to see where the Tong fit into this this puzzle of Chinese history, got to understand who was preceding them. That would be the Shui. Notice in your notes that the Shui, very short reign there, only a couple of emperors. And they were overworking, overtaxing the peasants, and that's going to lead, obviously, to their eventual dismissal. But also recognize that they were responsible for the Grand Canal, going to connect those two great river systems. So again, doing something infrastructure-wise to benefit trade is part of this conversation that we're having here about globalizing our world. All right, so the Tang, it says over 300 years or nearly 300 years, the empire is going to expand. They're going to regain some territory. They're going to reinsert bureaucracy. That's a big deal. We talked about the efficiency of day-to-day operations being handled there by qualified people, using exams to pick those people. But eventually, outside threats, it says, are going to be too great to overcome. So China will then wait for the Song, it says years 960 to 1279, to reorganize them once again. The Song are going to see great economic prosperity. Trade is going to flourish. Some of their greatest years are going to be as they run their control out of the southern portions of China, keeping that united. Prosperity overall, it says, in China during these two dynasties collectively. So collectively, we're talking about probably around or a little over 600 years. Look at the inventions. Notice that those inventions, as they are coming out of China, are going to make their way and influence other cultures and other societies around the world, and become important for those other societies and cultures. When it comes to acquiring them through trade or just maybe being regenerated there and being useful tools for advances in other places. Notice some academic learning ideas that are going to develop here in China and again make their way probably through trade routes. We've already talked about the Silk Road, so that's definitely part of our conversation continuing. But notice that the military is going to provide safety, and that's been a huge piece here as we've been talking about trade. Is that as long as you're safe to trade, whether nobody's going to take your stuff, or the products that you're buying are going to benefit you and they're going to last, that safety feel is going to create more of a demand for trade. Society, however, during these times in China, not necessarily moving forward. You can even see the last note there that women's status is going to continue to decline. But really overall, it's going to be difficult to reach up out of those lower rungs of Chinese society unless you do it through education. Being able to achieve those civil service positions because of taking those exams. All right, moving now over to the Mongols, and we've been hearing about them and kind of waiting for them. But let's take a look at how they play, maybe even an unintentional role in this ancient globalization. It says they're unlikely heroes. Heroes probably might not be the best word to describe, because if you heard the Mongols were on the way, you weren't thinking anybody was saving your day. But when we're talking about ancient globalization and connecting the world, the safety that they're going to bring to the trade is going to lead to a lot of prosperity, and that is somewhat heroic when you talk about exchange of ideas that comes through this trade. Notice that Genghis Khan, very much is going to be the centerpiece. If you want to throw out some great man of history theories here, Genghis Khan probably fits that model. Conquering much of Asia in only 21 years. Largest empire, land-based empire the world had seen. Tactics were centered on murder and terror. That's probably not, that's probably giving it a nice picture of what the realities were, and not getting too gruesome in detail there. However, not only using great strategies to win battles, but also putting effective people in charge is going to be something that Genghis is going to effectively do to achieve his empire. Upon his death, according to tradition of his people, his empire is going to be divided amongst his descendants, his sons and grandsons, and that's why the Mongols don't really last a long time, even though they were pretty tolerant and they brought some peace to the land in which they conquered. Once they established themselves, they were destroyers. They were not builders. They were not. So in some ways they definitely follow the model of empire, and in other ways they don't really, because the long-lasting reign here of them isn't really there, because again they lack that infrastructure building. They would come in, if you had a bureaucracy in place already, they'd use it, but if you didn't, then they weren't very innovative when it came to bringing a lasting reign of Mongol rule there. The legacy that we'd like to recognize, though, is definitely going to associate with how they made safe travel for traders, and that is going to bring about the good components of, say, the Silk Road trade with ideas, but also maybe some negative attributes with the spread of disease and maybe even some corruption. So, finishing up, as we look at ancient globalization, notice that control and unity, no matter if it comes through a heavy-handed rule of an empire or unity through a religion, that's going to, if the safety can be found there, that trade is going to follow, and that trade is going to allow for movement of not only peoples and culture, but also ideas. So there we have it, ancient globalization. Catch you next time.